after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business. We played it down.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a henna tattoo?
You gotta get a head tattoo. You gotta shave your
get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
And a personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Well, good evening, everyone. AFR now on your radio. Jay Smith, Bradley, Kendall, Evan, McDowell, the trio back again here. The studios at WCCP, to break down another hour of college football talk. Appreciate you spending your Monday evening with us. Bradley, so much to talk about. Almost half the top 10 losing this past weekend, week 7 in the books. It's time to dive right into it after further review.
There's only one Power 5 conference, and after this past week, you can see why. There's only one Power 5 conference right now with 2 undefeated teams left. That would be the ACC, the conference we've been kind of, nagging on this entire year.
ACC. Sorry. It just means more.
I barely knew you were capable of putting those on. It kind of threw me off for a second.
I got a whole bag of tricks back here. You just never know what to expect from the producer's booth.
I'll be on my, I'll be off my heels this entire show.
We've ragged the ACC the whole season.
Yeah. And rightfully so. I mean, they've been rated towards the bottom of the Power 5, if not the bottom, each individual week. We even mentioned the AAC potentially replacing them in the Power 5. Honestly, still not out of the picture, but yeah, like I said, the only 2 undefeated teams in the ACC, Clemson and NC State, facing off this weekend.
Yeah, and we will definitely break down that game a little bit later on in the show, but definitely want to get to some of the big games from this past weekend. Week 7 now in the books. We had a slew of top-ranked teams go down. Let's start off with, I guess, the biggest upset of this past weekend. Number 13, LSU, taking down number 2, Georgia, 36-16.
Really surprising. I, for one, had Georgia. I think every single person through ESPN had Georgia winning this game. I just thought, with Ed Orgeron, the way that he's kind of just been, hanging around, gets a big one here and there. I never thought he'd be able to consistently put this together. I was proven wrong. Credit to LSU. The run game really showed out here. LSU's proven they've got 2 legitimate running backs, kind of a mirror opposite of what Georgia was last year.
I mean, you score 36 points and your quarterback doesn't throw a touchdown, and he only threw for 200 yards.
As long as Joe Burrow doesn't ruin the game for LSU, they're going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, with Georgia last year, if Jake Fromm is just consistent enough to get them by, hands the ball off, the running game's working, they're going to win. And that's exactly what LSU was able to do.
I mean, LSU ended up with almost 500 total yards of offense.
Yeah, control the line of scrimmage. They had 4 fourth-down conversions, which was huge for them.
Now, I still think, and I hear what you're saying with the run game, but I think you have to take into consideration the fact that Georgia turned the ball over 4 times.
Oh, yeah.
That I believe Fromm threw 200. Yeah, he threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah, and that's just not like Jake Fromm. That's not the Jake Fromm we're used to seeing. That's not what Georgia's used to seeing. You got to credit LSU's defense. Had a great game plan. Greedy Williams might be the best cornerback in all of college football right now. Just a tremendous defense, and that's something that LSU can rely on when that running game, like we said, is not working out. So big confidence booster going up into the Alabama game in 2 weeks for the LSU Tigers, and back in the top 5. We'll see if they can stick around.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm looking here at the box score. It's just amazing to me that Georgia didn't score until about halfway through the third quarter. And, they were able to move the ball. I mean, they had 18 first downs. LSU had only 20, so only 2 more. It was just they couldn't get past that midpoint in the field.
And don't count Georgia.
Turned the ball over.
Do not count Georgia out. I mean, we saw last year Georgia took a big L to another team with Tigers in their name, Auburn. I think it was 41-17. Rebounded to make to the national championship. So there's still going to be a player in the SEC, but this definitely does not help going forward with the schedule they've got. And now they've got a couple teams behind them in the SEC East that potentially could be lurking up and taking that one spot. So we'll have tough to see.
What about West Virginia? Because I know you and I have been particularly high on them. Evan, not as much. And
Evan's rejoicing this week for more than one reason.
He's probably smiling back there.
Thank you. Upset pick of the week there, courtesy of Evan. You're welcome. Thank you.
I got to give him props because I legitimately didn't see this coming. I mean, Greer, he went 11 for 15 for 100 yards. He looked like...
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't even think Greer played that. I mean, he was 11 for 15. That's not awful. The fact that he only threw the ball 15 times is the amazing part. I don't see how that even happens. And I know Iowa State ran the ball well and chewed a lot of the clock out, but how do you only get 15 passes off?
It's just amazing looking at Iowa State's freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
Who is it, Brock Purdy?
Started his first game, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
Never heard of this guy before. Threw for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, they didn't just beat West Virginia, they throttled them.
Iowa State's got a really good 1-2-3 punch. They got Purdy, the quarterback, now filling in for Kyle Kempt, who was hurt. David Montgomery is one of the top running backs in the country. And Hakeem Butler, a great wide receiver for them. They're a force to be reckoned with. I know they're 3-3, but those 3 losses they had were really close. Iowa State's really going to keep continuing to wreak havoc in that Big 12, and we saw just a glimpse of what they were capable of in this West Virginia game.
I mean, West Virginia racked up only 152 total yards versus Iowa State's 500. Evan, is this a sign that Will Greer isn't as much as we've made him out to be?
I've been trying to tell y'all since the summer, your Heisman candidate just got outplayed by a true freshman on the road in a tough environment in a game that pretty much would make or break a Heisman candidate in my mind, because a real Heisman would go into that environment and say, forget the pressure, forget this team, we're going to win, and put up the kind of stats that Iowa State did.
I will say, you know who's last year's Heisman Trophy winner was that happened to lose a game to the same Iowa State team? Baker Mayfield. So I'm just saying it's not completely out of the picture for Will Greer to win it.
I'm just saying, 11 for 15, 100 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. That sounds more like
that's the thing.
Sounds more like a Chase Bryce stat line than a Heisman candidate stat line.
That's a great first half stat line, but for an entire game, I don't even see how that happens.
Yeah,
I don't either. It's pretty sad.
That's crazy.
Honestly, again, I didn't get to watch this game because we were traveling, we were out of town, which we unfortunately didn't get to catch many games this weekend.
I don't know if I'd openly admit that.
I say that with full transparency because
we caught as much as we could.
No, I mean we're sitting here talking about we don't know how that happens, and part of the reason is because we weren't able to watch a ton of games this weekend. We kept up with them obviously with scores, but it wasn't like we were able to sit down and analyze them to the extent that we have been throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Evan, I think most people didn't even take a look at this game. I mean, this wasn't even on many people's radar, and it should have been with how many losses you saw compiling in that top 5 and top 10. West Virginia really had a chance to make a statement here and creep up into that top 4, and they couldn't do it.
3 weeks in a row, my upset pick has been correct. That one was definitely the most bold, but I will pat myself on the back a little bit because that was a good win for the Cyclones, and I'm a Matt Campbell fan.
What are you doing now if you're West Virginia and the last 4 games in your schedule are at Texas, TCU, at Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma?
Well, you got to regroup quickly because there is, like you said, a lot of opportunity left on that schedule. I mean, if the Big 12 is going to have a chance to get a team in, they're going to need to see a team like a West Virginia really get hot towards the end of the year and take down some top-notch teams.
Well, and you figure if West Virginia wants to make the playoff and Will Greer wants to solidify his Heisman candidacy, you basically got to beat Oklahoma twice.
You do.
Yeah.
Unless Texas ends up becoming the second best team in the Big 12 or the best team in the Big 12, then you got to beat them twice. So either way, you got a tough road ahead. I've been trying to tell y'all it's not all cakewalk for your Mountaineers.
Now, what about Texas here? I'm really curious what y'all think because, we did see Sam Ehlinger get hurt in the first half, was filled in by Shane Boucher, and they really struggled to put away a Baylor team that, let's be quite honest, is not exactly what their 4-2 record is made out to be.
Texas has shown, and I think you may have been you getting into it on Twitter a couple times today with some people about whether Texas was legitimate, and in my personal opinion, I think that they have shown signs of being able to contend with top 15 caliber teams. However, they have just as often shown that they can lose to a team like Maryland. They can kind of get in a close game with a team like Baylor. They're just too inconsistent.
And that's why I don't think Texas can officially be called back because they're not consistent.
If they run the table and win the Big 12 and sneak into the playoff conversation,
I will shut my mouth.
You got to say Texas back.
Look at their schedule, though. If they beat Oklahoma State, let's say they handle West Virginia. Okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, that's not an easy game.
Look at how West Virginia just performed.
Where's the game?
This game is going to be home for Texas.
Okay, well, look how Texas performed against Maryland and Baylor. Like, it's possible.
And look at how they performed against Oklahoma. I understand Oklahoma doesn't have a great defense, but we can't pretend that West Virginia has a good defense after watching how they perform.
What do we
against
got
Iowa
after that?
State.
We got Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, Iowa State. That could be a potential loss.
That is a rough.
And then Kansas, they could finish 9-3, 10-2. That's a great
Yeah, but
season.
If we're talking about like conference championship and playoff aspirations here, that's a really
They have a
tough road to go through.
long way to go, but a 9-3 year and a potential bowl game for 10 wins, that's great.
They got to win out and either play West Virginia or Oklahoma again. It could happen. It's a long. It's a
I don't
long
think it's
shot.
happening this year.
It's a long shot, but I wouldn't be that surprised if Texas finished as a one-loss.
If you had to make a
team.
prediction though, is the Big 12 out of the playoff? Are they going to make the playoff? I don't think so.
I don't think so. And
I wouldn't think.
leads
I
us-
would say the Big 12, in my opinion at least, has a better chance of making the playoff than the Pac-12.
I'd take Oregon. With the amount of teams that they have to go through compared to what Texas has to go through, I'm taking Oregon because they've already got Stanford and Washington in their rearview mirror.
Well, that's the game that we were going to actually highlight next was Washington's loss. This was on the road.
On the road at
to
Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon beat them 30-27 in a nail biter in overtime. Washington now falls to 5-2, and Oregon, surprisingly, kind of emerges as the front runner, or the only team with a glimmer of hope to make the playoff from the Pac-12.
Credit to Mario Cristobal for icing the kicker not once but twice for Washington, and then it paid off in the end with that missed kick, I believe, in overtime. So Oregon just has a thing for winning and losing close games. That's just how they play. I've been saying all year I love Justin Herbert. I think he's a top 3 quarterback right now in college football. And with their schedule coming up, I mean, Oregon's going to have to look really, really good and really dominant the rest of the way. But if they're able to win that Pac-12 and run the table the rest of the way, they're going to be lurking around that top five slot towards the end of the year.
These teams just went toe to toe the
Very even
entire
matchup.
game.
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel really bad
extremely
for
even
Jake
matchup.
Browning.
Yeah.
I mean, loses a heartbreaker at Oregon, loses a tough one to Auburn, and now they're just out of the playoff.
See, I think this is one of those games that the playoff committee could kind of take into account and see that Washington could very easily and probably very easily should have won this game if the Washington kicker goes 3 for 3 or heck even 2 for 3 on those last field goals where Cristobal's icing him, which again, credit to him for calling that second time out, because if he doesn't, kicker made the kick before that. Yeah. So, you look at Washington and you could argue that they're the best 2-loss team in the country, or at least 2 of the best losses in the country to Auburn and now Oregon.
That Auburn loss doesn't look very good anymore.
Doesn't look good, and they don't.
It doesn't look as good.
It doesn't look as
But
good.
let's say Auburn wins the Iron Bowl, beats Bama. Then that loss all of a sudden looks a heck of a lot better.
That's a lot more.
Looking way down the road. Not just saying, but
I think Washington's got a better chance to make the playoff than Auburn does to beat Alabama.
Hey, I was probably higher on Washington than anybody going into the season with them going undefeated, making a playoff. I'll admit that. However, I think you've really got to give Oregon some credit. They have played, when they play Washington State on the road this weekend, they'll have played 4 ranked teams in a row at the time of the game. If Oregon wins this weekend, they will be 3-1 in those 4 games. Now they only
Should be 4-0.
Should be 4-0 with that loss to Stanford. But
you could also argue that they should be 1-2
That's
the last
that's
3
the thing,
games.
yeah.
No, it's super
Same for
close.
Washington, though.
But the thing is they only have, those are the only teams on their schedule right now that are ranked. So if they get through their schedule and they've won 3 of their 4 ranked games and they're 11-1, 10-2, and they win the Pac-12 championship, I think maybe there's a chance.
For Oregon, you're talking about?
Yes.
Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can run the table with 1 loss.
Washington's out.
Washington, unfortunately, is out. And
They're out.
that's the
They're
thing.
out.
Like, someone posed a question, I believe it was Josh Storms. Does Washington deserve to be above a team like NC State, who's still undefeated? I mean, you got a 2-loss team.
Well, you had Auburn ranked 21st this past week, which was ludicrous.
There's 2 ways to look at this, though. You got Washington, 2 good losses, shows that they can compete in those games, but they've also got 2 losses. Like, if you want to go based on the AP version, NC State should be 10 spots ahead of what Washington is.
Throw the AP version out the window.
Yeah, I think they're close. They're closer than probably a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Like the ranking says 14 and I believe 16, but
So you would pick NC State in a head-to-head matchup against Washington?
that's the thing. Like, I don't think you can really accurately judge NC State yet. I think we need to see this 1 week. They had that game against West Virginia rained out, which was unfortunate because then we'd really have a better idea of what NC State is. I think it'd be a close game because Washington's been in close games all year. I'd probably still take Washington.
I mean, NC State's 5-0, but here's the real gripe I have about NC State right now. I'm not saying they're a bad football team. I'm just saying that the only game I can really base them off of on their schedule thus far this season was West Virginia, and it was canceled.
If
NC State had played West Virginia and they had beaten or contended really well with West Virginia, because look at who they've beaten: JMU, Georgia State, Marshall, UVA, BC.
And that's my argument with UCF. I think it's hard to judge a team. You got to play the teams on your schedule. It's just the way that it works out. It's hard to really judge a team, and you just have to give your best opinion on what you see to accurately judge how a team would do. It's just really hard to rank them when you don't see them
And you've
play
got
big
teams that are playing across the country from each other. There's hardly any common opponents ever, and so it's difficult. But we got a couple minutes left before we got to cut to break here, and we've actually got Clemson Dad on the phone lines with us this evening. How you doing this evening?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well. You here to talk college football? I saw you texted in a little bit earlier about some NFL.
Well, yeah, but you were talking about my daughter. I'm a Gamecock fan, but my daughter chose to go to Clemson. That's why I go by the handle Clemson Dad. I think I've talked to you guys about that before.
Yeah, I think we've
She's a
gotten
big
that
Trevor
right now.
Lawrence fan, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Yep, exactly. But anyway, I think NC State game, is it 15.5 points is the last line I saw they were getting
Yeah,
in Clemson this weekend?
it's
I
a
got
2-score
seven.
line.
I got 17 right now, yep.
Take that.
So you would take that in
Take-
favor of NC State or in favor of Clemson?
In favor of NC State, because I called the Syracuse game being close a couple of weeks ago. So
I would
and it was.
I would agree with you because unlike I think Bradley and Evan, I still wasn't fully convinced by Clemson after their performance against Wake Forest. I know that the final score says otherwise, but I didn't feel like they played They played a great game, best game they've played all season. They just weren't 100% the entire 60 minutes. So I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say that it's going to be closer than a 2-score line.
15.5. Yeah, I think I'd take that if I had a lot of money to bet. Because, I mean, North Carolina State's undefeated still, right?
Yep. 5-0. 5-0 against Clemson 6-0.
5-0.
Now, do you think it's going to be closer towards an even betting line, like a tie game, or closer towards the actual betting line itself? Because I'm going to put it at like 12.
Great question.
I put it at 12 right now.
Yeah, that's probably good. That's probably a good number for me.
Yeah, that was the A&M game. A&M was 12. I think that's an accurate, based on what we've seen from NC State so far. I think maybe a score and a half is a pretty good number to put it at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked to Depp Tula last week on the LSU Florida game or LSU Georgia game, and Georgia's getting so many points. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't think that LSU might not beat them. Goodness gracious, I didn't expect them to pound them either. So
yeah,
was a surprise.
I saw the Wisconsin-Michigan.
I took LSU though.
Yeah, I saw the Wisconsin-Michigan line at Michigan by 6.5, and I was like, I'm taking Wisconsin on that. And then, lo and behold, I was wrong by about 40 points. So it can happen.
All right, I'll leave you guys with this. I just want to hear a little discussion. Montez Perfect. Montez, I'm sorry, with a V. Montez Perfect. Is he a dirty player? How does he keep getting away with all the things that he does? I thought he tried to break Antonio Brown's neck yesterday. It wasn't a call, but if you look on the social media today, it's like, my goodness. I mean, he's trying to kill my man. He ain't much bigger than me.
No, I don't think. Hey, we appreciate you taking the time to call in this evening, Clemson Dad. Thanks so much. But
anytime.
I don't think.
The short answer, yes.
I don't. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's no secret that Vontaze Burfict has one of the worst reputations as a dirty player across the league.
Worse than Dominican Sue?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
He's more of a habitual offender than a Dominican
And it's
Sue
always
by
against
a long shot.
It's always against the Steelers too.
Yeah.
Like he's got some gripe with the city of Pittsburgh or the Steelers organization, but it always seems to be against Pittsburgh. How many times is it going to take? I mean, what kind of suspension do you need to hand this guy to teach him a lesson?
He's missed. What is it? It's 10 games over his career for suspension. He's been fined. I'm looking
First
here.
4 this year, I believe.
Yeah, he's been fined almost $300,000. But that particular hit yesterday, there was no flag, and the NFL announced a few hours ago that they weren't planning to suspend him for that.
I mean, yeah, I don't see how you don't just kick him out of the league at this point with the number of times, the number of players that have spoken out about this guy intentionally going out to hurt other guys. With the recent developments we've seen with the quarterback hits, I mean, this guy is one hit away from ending someone's career.
10 years ago, I don't think this discussion would be as amped up as it is right now, just with everything that's gone on with CTE and concussions and hits and long term ramifications of those kinds of hits. But I think with the whole environment now, people say that football's getting soft. who was it? It was Larry Fedora, right? For UNC, his ACC Media Days press conference was all about the integrity.
How much do you trust anything that man has to say these days?
Very
funny coming from a guy that probably should get his players to play a little harder than they've played.
You see hits now, and like a few years ago, you may have been like, "Oh, that was a great hit," but now you're just like, "Ooh, that it just." I don't know. Do you feel that? I feel like that sometimes.
I do, and when it seems intentional, sometimes when it's just a football hit, and it just kind of happens, you can let it slide. But it seems like he's got a target on some of these guys' back, and he's trying to go after them.
The targeting rule in college football, I think, is usually done fairly well. I know they have to review some calls, but I don't know. We'll
one more hit, kick him out for the season.
Yeah, we'll bring this up after break. We got to cut to a quick break. We'll be back after this.
Every year, WCCP gives you a chance to get our one-of-a-kind Tigers for Tatas wristband. All money goes to Dabo Swinney's All-In Foundation, and you'll get your chance to grab a few and talk sports with Brad and Ben on October 18th. The press box will be hanging out at Loco Mart on Old Greenville Highway from 9 until noon. Loco Mart's teaming up with Tiger Moving Company to move some Tigers for Tatas wristbands. We'll have Papa John's Pizza and giveaways too. Join us October 18th from 9 till noon at Loco Mart from 105.5 The Roar.
It's your wiener. Do what you want with it. Hot dogs, burgers, and more with over 100 free toppings to choose from. Check them out on game day for food and drink specials. Not to mention one of the largest draft selections in town, outdoor patio, and weekday happy hour from 4 to 8 p.m. Full liquor bar and 17 big screen TVs. Visit it's, the letter U, the letter R, wiener.com for full menu. 101 Keith Street, downtown Clemson. We'll see you on game day. Go Tigers!
Design jewelry too for diamonds. You want diamonds and gold direct for everything in diamonds and gold. Come in and see the pros who know. Diamonds and gold direct. We're your diamond source.
Do you have a love-hate relationship with your credit card? You love the freedom and convenience the credit card gives you, but you hate the high interest rates? And let's face it, they're high. 17, 18, even 20% APR? That's pretty outrageous. But with Lightstream's credit card consolidation loan, rather than throwing your money away on high interest payments, you can get a much lower rate, as low as 6.14% APR with AutoPay. And today, if you want an even lower rate, apply at lightstream.com/radio for a special discount. Plus, with Lightstream, your rate is fixed, so as rates continue to rise, your rates won't budge. They'll stay low. You can get a loan from $5,000 to $100,000, which means you can pay off your credit card and start paying an interest rate you can really love, thanks to Lightstream.
Ready to start saving? Apply now at lightstream.com/radio. That's right. Get your extra discount by applying today at lightstream.com/radio. That's lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.5% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
Pack your bags. Frontier Airlines has arrived at GSP International Airport with nonstop flights and low fares to Denver, Las Vegas, Orlando, and Tampa. It's never been easier or more affordable to reach your favorite destinations nonstop. That's right, nonstop flights on Frontier Airlines. So don't wait to climb that mountain, roll those dice, ride a roller coaster, or reach the beach. Book your trip from GSP at flyfrontier.com. Frontier Airlines. Low fares done right.
Looking for delicious and innovative food in downtown Clemson? The Blue Heron Restaurant and Sushi Bar is the answer. Fresh house-cut steaks and seafood and free-range poultry are just a few of the menu items that define the Blue Heron. And specials like 2 for Tuesday. Buy one roll and get the second half price. The finest steaks and fresh seafood at the Blue Heron, College Avenue, Clemson. Visit our website at blueheronfood.com.
Are you ready to go all in on a car? Granger Nissan knows what car will fit you and your family because they are a leader in the market with competitive inventory. They have everything for everyone. Granger Nissan is a family business, so they know the importance of taking care of the ones we love on the road. You can drive with confidence and ease because Granger Nissan has all new vehicles with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Granger Nissan is not just in the car business, they're in the people business. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson on 3510 Clemson Boulevard.
And now, back to Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Welcome back. AFR on the radio, Monday evening. Thanks for spending it with us. Jay, Bradley, and Evan. we were going to break down UCF and Memphis, and we will get to that, we promise. But in the break, some interesting conversation related to the best, the worst sports chants. Bradley Kendall's pet peeve is the overrated chants.
It's the dumbest chant in sports. It really is. If you really think about it, if you're chanting overrated, you're basically saying we just beat a team that's not as good as everyone thought they were. So it makes you look bad. And I don't think people actually understand that, but it's not like beneficial to your team to yell that.
Now, the reason that this conversation came up was we were talking about certain chants that happened within the Clemson Stadium, the woohoo, right before, the CLEM, SON. And I know that a lot of people, I think Evan made the comment that a lot of, the more traditional, the older fans are not a huge fan of the woohoo. Some of the younger people, especially the student section, kind of, I guess, embrace the woohoo. Do you care, Bradley? I mean, is it something that you even think about?
It didn't bug me because I'm a younger guy. I mean, it's all I've known.
It's all you've known.
Exactly. Yeah. Like in the student section, it's just a thing people do. I don't think it's really used throughout the entire stadium, so it's not like you can even really hear it almost.
I'll tell you what's not used throughout the entire stadium, and this really, I don't know why, but it gets on my nerves when we try and do the CLE around
it never
the section.
works.
It never works.
No.
And I guess, I don't know if that's because, when you get to that point on the far side, they just can't hear the start of it.
Yeah.
But it dies about halfway around every single time.
We always pick to do it when the band starts playing too, which never is a great idea at all.
My number one pet peeve when it comes to, and this isn't really a chant, but more so like a Clemson vocal tradition, I guess, is during the alma mater towards the end when Tigers roar may echo. You're supposed to start waving your forefingers at the o'er the mountain height. But the freshmen always get that wrong. They always start waving at that echo. Like, no, you're way too early. Wait till or, and then it's the mountain height.
Make that O sound again. Or.
I don't really know. I'm not a singer.
You got people turning their radios on now. One other thing we can't do is clap on time.
No.
Oh my gosh. We have the most incompetent student section when it comes to clapping.
When the band comes out and they start marching and playing and we're trying to clap along, you'd think that we were all doing it we were all deaf.
Yeah, like during the alma mater, we never sing on time. The band is always so far behind us. It's just so awkward at the end.
If you ever need help clapping, somebody gave me a helpful hint. Whenever the band takes a step, like when their foot hits the ground, that's when you're supposed to clap. But because apparently not everybody knows that, you got 3 different sets of claps. So during Tiger Raw and Tiger Rag, all you can hear is.
One of the underappreciated ones is the back and forth that the band does. I think it's after
after
the
touchdowns.
Yeah,
after touchdowns where they lean forward, lean back, and unit. Yeah,
the number of times I've almost fallen 3 rows ahead of me doing that is I just get too into it.
I don't know. I mean, I think I know a lot of people are not a huge fan of the woohoo. I personally, don't have preference. I like to do it during the games, but it was an interesting conversation. I mean, every stadium across the country has their own chant.
Texas A&M.
I still think the most intimidating is Florida State.
Most intimidating or worst? I hate that.
No,
I love it.
It's so annoying.
I was a Braves fan for a while. I went to so many Braves games, and that was just so fun to do. It kind of carried over.
How'd you switch over to the Pirates?
Well, my dad got me really into the Pirates later on, and now I got John. I got to back him up here at the station as a Pirates fan.
No, I really think, truthfully, Florida State's Seminole Chop is the most intimidating thing.
I think it would mean more if they didn't do it every 7.5 seconds.
That's true.
You really diminish that thing when every 7.5 seconds you're hitting us with the I just heard that. Stop.
No matter where they're playing, you can hear it on TV.
I got to be honest, dude. After
loud.
watching the A&M game at Kyle Field, some of their chants really get you.
You get 100,000 people saying anything,
you get the
and it's going to work.
Stadium.
You could have 100,000 people in that stadium yelling cottage cheese, and all of a sudden you're wanting to come all the way back to Clemson. So,
good discussion, but we got.
Speaking of
go back
debatable and controversial conversations. Central Florida, University of Central Florida's Knights. And we talked about this last week. It's got a lot of conversation on Twitter, even people telling me that I was dumb for even posing the question, does UCF deserve to make the playoff? And I know I'm in the minority here.
Can I go ahead and just preface this and say that there is nothing you can tell me right now to convince me that UCF is one of the top 4 best college football teams in the country right now? You can go ahead with your argument. You're just not going to convince me.
I'm genuinely curious. I want to hear what you got to say.
All right, so I'm not really basing it off, and this was going back to the NC State debate. I'm not really basing it off what they've done so far because it's clear they have not played to the level of competition that some of these other teams have. That being said, I don't think it's unfair to say that UCF later on down the road could be a top 5 team or could be in that top 4. I legitimately think UCF deserves to be in the playoff when it's all said and done. Because if you look at it right now, we talked about this last week. Georgia lost. They'll probably lose to Alabama. So the SEC only gets 1 team. If Ohio State wins out and Clemson wins out, you've got 3 spots taken up. Hang on a minute, Jay.
Okay.
That one more spot, who's going to fill it? We said the Pac-12's probably out. The Big 12's probably out. What if Notre Dame loses the game? UCF's going to be in the top 6 if they go undefeated. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Do they deserve to get in over a one-loss Notre Dame team? Probably not. I think they're a top 5 team, though.
Are you putting them in the top 4 or the top 6 based off the fact that they went undefeated? Or are you putting them in the top 4 or the top 6 based on the fact that other teams who played stiffer competition lost? Does that question make sense? Like, what's the measure? Is the measure, okay, UCF went 12-0, they blazed through a schedule that was pretty easy versus a Georgia team that tripped up twice?
If you've got 2 losses, you're not getting in the playoff. I just don't think it's happening.
Fair.
With what we're in right now, I think UCF, if this was just their first season doing well, and this is their only season they've started 5-0, fair. Mackenzie Milton's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country right now. They're coming off an undefeated season from last year.
You gotta look at who they're playing.
They would have been, if you look at the schedule.
Memphis had more total yards in that game than UCF.
It was a tough game, and after what we saw this week, every team struggles. It happens.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to happen throughout the course of an entire season. Now, after it's all said and done, if the schedule right now, what it shapes out to be, holds, that's 2 ranked wins for UCF, South Florida and Cincinnati. If you look at Notre Dame's schedule, they'll only have 2 ranked wins now.
So if Notre Dame is 1 loss and UCF's undefeated and both teams are vying for the 4th spot, you're putting in UCF?
I'm putting in UCF. I am. Because if you look at Notre Dame's wins right now, how's that Virginia Tech win look? They lost to Old Dominion.
Yeah, but who is So you're that 1 loss is significant enough.
How's the Stanford win looking? They just got trounced by Utah.
Yes, but
if
you can't
Notre
say
Dame
anything about the wins for UCF. They beat South Carolina State, they beat SMU, they beat FAU.
If Notre Dame loses to Navy, though, and UCF beats Navy, there's another point you can look at.
The common opponent is big.
UCF gets a conference championship game. Notre Dame doesn't have that.
Oh,
the remaining schedule?
The American Conference championship doesn't.
They might be Houston, who will be a top 20 team at the end of the year. That's 3 top 20 wins right there. Notre Dame's schedule and UCF's schedule right now, guess who has the hardest one throughout the course of the remainder of the year? Based on strength of schedule. UCF. I mean, it's closer than you think. I think it really is.
No.
You got anything?
Evan, what do you think?
All I'm saying is that, I don't think UCF's going undefeated because I'm looking at their last 4 games. I'm writing off next week against ECU because, sorry, John, that ain't happening. But the last 4 weeks of the schedule, you got a home against Temple, a home against Navy, a home against Cincinnati, at Central Florida to end out the year. I think you drop at least one of those 4.
But why?
Because
it's a difficult schedule.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying anything against their schedule. I'm just saying that if we rank them number 5 right now, they lose 1 game, all of a sudden we're dropping them all the way down to number 15, as opposed to Georgia, who goes from number 2 with a loss to number 8 because they're a better football team.
Wisconsin.
Get your teams right.
I got it. Wisconsin was 6th, lost to BYU, and fell 12 spots. We're not really debating that.
And Wisconsin just lost their second game, so we know Wisconsin's not the team we thought they were to start the year.
But I'm talking about at the time, though. They lost to BYU and dropped 12 spots.
Oh, BYU's terrible.
LSU, no. LSU is a lot stiffer competition than BYU. Come on.
Oh, of course. All I'm saying is a team like BYU they're going to lose to is right on par with a team like Navy that they might lose to.
I still think that in order for UCF to... And
I think this week in particular, UCF really got some help.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the first game that they've really struggled with all year.
Let's not act like Memphis is 0-6. Memphis right now has the best running back in the country, statistically. Darrell Henderson.
Yeah,
they were a tough team to beat on the road.
Again, you have to look at who they're playing. Who is Memphis is 4-3. Yeah, they have a
couple tough losses. Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't a pushover.
A couple tough losses.
It wasn't a pushover.
All I'm saying
Washington has a couple tough losses.
You will not find a bigger South Florida fan than me on November 23rd because the second UCF loses, we can throw out this entire silly debate and not have to worry about it.
It's like Houston a couple years ago.
Oh,
lost
Houston,
to Navy, they were out.
And Houston had no business being in the playoff anyway. They finished like 9-3 that year.
They beat Oklahoma that year.
They finished 9-3. No 3-loss teams get into playoff.
Well, of course
Get out of here.
At the time, it was an accurate.
All I'm saying is a 1-loss UCF stands about as good of a chance as making it to the playoff as the 3 of us and 8 of our closest friends. So,
hey, this is the only way UCF even sniffs the playoff. They got to go.
So they got to go undefeated, and they got to look good doing it the rest of the way.
Right now, if they finish 12-0, just to wrap this up. If they finish 12-0, you're going to put them in your top 4.
If they finish 12-0, depending on how the rest of the conferences work out.
Okay, so just to be clear, they go 12-0, but they still don't control their own destiny.
They need some help. I think they do, and I think they got some help this week. I think the Pac-12 and the Big 12 looking like they might eliminate themselves. Georgia might be eliminated at this point since they lose to Alabama.
I think that it would require NC State to beat Clemson and the ACC to kind of cannibalize itself for a team like UCF.
But that's the thing,
just because of the fact that Notre Dame is an independent is
if
lurking.
Notre Dame is not in this discussion, I think UCF's top 4 team. I really do.
I would agree. I think though I think we agree on the fact that if they get through the schedule undefeated, they're still going to need help. They're not in control of their own
If they go
destiny.
undefeated, they're a top 6 team.
If you're UCF, you A, win all your games, and B, cross your fingers and hope that every Power 5 champion ends up with at least one loss. Because if you go undefeated and win the American Conference and every other Power 5 school has a one-loss champion, then you're looking at sliding in that 4 spot. But if Clemson wins out and wins the ACC, they're in. I think if Georgia beats Bama in the ACC championship game, assuming both, or SEC championship game, assuming both of those win out, I think a one-loss non-SEC champion Bama would get in
But
for
this
sure.
is only under the condition that Alabama runs the table and Georgia has 2
which it
losses.
looks like they're going to.
And Notre Dame still needs to lose. They'd have to.
If you're
eliminate
UCF,
themselves.
if you're UCF, you are pulling hard for Notre Dame to lose and for Clemson to lose, because at this point, pulling for Alabama to lose is like pulling for Antarctica to freeze the rest of the world, because that's not going to happen. Yeah, you're basically fighting for second place right now. If you're UCF, you need everybody else but Bama to lose.
But like keeping them around the top 5 until all of that goes
there's
not
nothing
their
wrong with
way.
that. You can put them in the top
There's
10.
nothing wrong with
I'm fine with them in the top 10. Leave them 10, 9, 8 for now, and then after everybody else starts losing, if you want to scoot them up to 6 and 5 and start creeping in, maybe. But my argument against UCF is the same as it would have been in 2014 when we didn't let Baylor and TCU in. Both of them had, I think, one loss, and they were 5 and 6 respectively, and arguably should have gotten in over number 4 Ohio State. But they didn't. Tough luck, try again next year. Neither of them even came close to the playoff next year. So I think you could see that with UCF this year, and that, hey, you had a pretty good year last year. You beat a pretty good Auburn team. You're going to get close to the playoff this year. You might finish number 5 in the country. Good luck. Keep trying next year, and then they come back next year and go like 6 and 6, and we never have to worry about
and
it.
that could very
you know
well
what I mean?
happen. I just think keeping them around that 5, 6, 7 spots not really unreasonable.
I don't think it is.
I don't disagree with that.
I'm more looking forward. I'm not really looking at what they've done so far.
Okay,
that's kind of what I'm looking
They
at.
have a lot that still needs to go.
Of course,
go their way.
It's going to be difficult anyway for a group of 5 team.
One thing that I want to get to before we cut to another break is the West Virginia-Iowa State game, specifically the ending of that game. Iowa State fans rushed the field. You saw it happen at the end of the LSU game. Also, I believe
LSU Georgia.
LSU got fined, I think, $100,000 for letting their fans rush the field.
Slap on the wrist.
West Virginia coach though, Holgerson, he said afterwards, after the game was over and he had gotten his players off the field, that he considered rushing the field, quote, very unprofessional, and that it was just a hassle to get his players off the field to make sure that everyone was safe, and that, it's just not a great situation for a losing team on the road to be in.
You want to know one way to avoid that? Don't lose to a team like that on the road. That's just win the game.
So this problem goes beyond just college football, though, because Coach K, you Duke homeboys, he has been against this for a long time.
Coach K also sees this more often than any other coach in America.
He does,
so.
But does Holgerson have a point? Like, is this because the reason I want to bring this up is Clemson allows the fans to gather at the Paul after every game, and we both know that in the stadium there are signs that say "Don't rush the field until 30 seconds after the cannon sounds."
That's also like saying wait 30 minutes after eating before going in the pool.
And we all know that no one obeys that.
Yeah, of course.
So I guess the conversation is there going to come a point where something's going to happen where they're not going to allow fans to gather at the Paul because balloons are gone?
Oh yeah, it takes
student tickets for free are gone.
All it's going to take is one semi-injured player as a result of field storming, and all of a sudden, Clemson makes you stay in the stands. So if any one thing were to go kind of wrong in a field rush attempt here at Clemson, like if this Saturday some NC State player gets hit in the head with a stray box of popcorn, all of a sudden you're going to see that regulated a lot more.
You're getting hit by popcorn with a helmet on. There's a problem there.
No, Bradley. I mean, seriously, like it could be a problem.
It could. I wouldn't abolish it now. I'd wait until actually. I mean, I hate to say that.
No. We're not going to abolish it. It's just, will they have to be more strict about it in the future?
I think in the day and time we're in right now, if something was to happen, you'd probably be a little more strict. I don't think it's likely to get to that point because I mentioned this to you before. There's much more emotion involved in a underrated team beating like a top 5 team at home as opposed to Clemson beating Furman. So that's more of just an accident when that happens.
And there are plenty of people, some would say ignorant people on social media, that ridicule Clemson week after week for storming the field after beating inferior opponents. Obviously, those people are not. They're not aware of the tradition that Clemson fans have when it comes to gathering to the Paul, but it's the same type of discussion.
Yeah, I think like you said before, the day and time we're in, if something was to go wrong, it's probably going to be looked at more. It's going to be pinpointed more than it would have been 10 years ago. I don't think you get rid of it after just one instance.
There's no immediate threat. Like, I'm not saying it's going to go away. It's just, it's something they probably should.
Now, I don't think these fines are doing anything. I really don't.
No.
$100,000, that's nothing to a school. Like, they don't care. If they would have cared, they would have stopped.
But realistically, how are you going to stop? And basketball is probably the best example because of how close fans are to the playing surface. How are you going to stop that many people hell-bent on storming a court or the field without an extreme amount of security?
I would say you deal with it the same way you deal with fans that used to tear down the goalposts. Now, all of a sudden, we have installed goalposts that automatically go down at the end of a game. So if a problem arises, that's what creates a solution. So if you see a problem as a result of fans storming the field, all of a sudden you're going to see a solution. Maybe it's going to be more police officers.
They're going to roll up the field.
Or are they going to put some nets around the entire field?
I don't know. I'm just saying. A problem creates a solution. So as soon as something occurs that makes this field storming go wrong, you're going to see Clemson take some kind of action to prevent it from happening in the future.
It would just take an extreme amount of security.
It would. It reminds me of the baseball problem that they had with balls and bats flying into the stands and hitting fans that are just sitting there on the side. You put on the nets on the side. So maybe if it comes to that point, we just try and increase the security or something. But until
I know some stadiums have pretty high ledges where you can't really jump off from the
That's not going to stop drunk college kids.
No, absolutely not. But we got to take a quick final break. When we come back, we will definitely be highlighting Clemson and NC State matchup. That's next. Stick with us.
This fall, the temperature may be dropping, but the Cooper Take the Money and Ride promotion is just heating up. From October 1st to October 31st, you can claim a Cooper Tires prepaid virtual account or card worth up to $100 when you buy a new set of 4 qualifying tires. Choose from great options like the long-lasting CS5 Grand Touring, the durable Discoverer AT3 family of tires, or many other reliable Cooper tires. Learn more at coopertires.com and stop by at Pendleton Tire, 906 South Mechanic Street. In the center of it all lies a crown jewel of Anderson, the Anderson Sports and Entertainment Center. Adventure awaits at the Kidventure Playground. There's 64 acres for sports, including 7 ball fields, 3 soccer fields, 8 tennis courts, and miles of hiking paths. A 10,000-seat amphitheater and the county's largest ballroom and seating for up to 3,200 spectators. Hosting a private event? Look no further than the Anderson Sports and Entertainment Center. In the center of it all, go to andersonevents.com.
Tune in Thursdays as Murdoch Superstores welcomes our weekly conversation with Daniel Shirley of the Athletic Atlanta. He'll bring us updates on the Bulldogs, the Yellow Jackets, and the Falcons. Thursdays with Daniel Shirley of the Athletic Atlanta. Brought to you by Murdoch Superstores in Livonia.
Cycle Bar is an extremely upbeat and fun way to work out. Cycle Bar is a spinning class, but so much more. Great environment for beginner to advanced riders. Cycle Bar is Greenville's only premier indoor cycling facility, featuring state-of-the-art amenities and a cycle theater with stacked system, music videos, and dynamic lighting. Ask about their special themed rides, private parties, and group rides available. Reserve your space today at greenville.cyclebar.com.
Right now at Blanchard Machinery, get 0% for 60 months on new cat equipment. Because we know growing your business isn't just one thing, it's a million little things. And we're ready to help. With expert advice, flexible financing, and industry-leading equipment, you can get the job done, day after day. Get 0% for 60 months on new cat equipment. Call 844-BLANCHARD or visit blanchardmachinery.com/TV. Terms and conditions apply.
Does your home have wall cracks, uneven floors, or doors and windows that are sticking? These are all signs that a foundation problem is stealing value from your home. Call Canty Foundation Specialist at 475-1671. We know your home is your #1 investment, and we can help protect it. Don't wait for a foundation problem to get worse. If you have sagging floors or cracks in your sheetrock, call Canty Foundation Specialist, 475-1671, or visit us at cantyfoundationsc.com.
Arrowhead Point Golf Club on Lake Richard B. Russell is a golfer's gym. During October, they're offering an incredible $100 foursome special Monday through Friday, which includes golf and cart fee, all on the Golf Week #3 ranked course in Georgia. Just $100 per foursome, Monday through Friday in October. See why so many love playing Arrowhead Point. Call 706-283-6000 and reserve your October foursome special at Arrowhead Point, a golfer's gym in Elberton, Georgia.
Join us for the Press Box this Friday from 9 a.m. to noon at Take Cover Boat and RV Storage, 1448 Blue Ridge Boulevard in Seneca. Show your support for the Dabo All-Win Foundation and Breast Cancer Awareness by purchasing a Tigers for Tata's wristband while celebrating Take Cover's grand open house event.
pizza, prizes, and more. Come out for a great cause and join the Press Box live on location Friday, October 19th from 9 to noon, 1448 Blue Ridge Boulevard in Seneca. We'll see you there.
Homeowners and landscapers choose EnviroMulch, a locally owned, environmentally friendly company. They supply quality organic mulches, soil, sand, and stone for every landscaping application, delivery, or pickup. Nobody beats their prices. EnviroMulchOnline.com.
And now, back to After Further Review.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for spending your Monday evening with us. Jay, Bradley, Evan, After Further Review, guys, breaking down college football for you here this fine Monday evening. And we actually, while we were in break, had Two Real Till call in. He's on the phone lines with us now. How you doing?
Wait a minute, I know who this is.
How you doing this evening?
Yes. What's up, James?
Yo, what's up, y'all?
How we doing, man? What you got for us? I know we talked a little earlier, but what kind of questions you got?
Oh, definitely. Hey, I was actually surprised that we didn't talk about Kelly Bryant at all. I know he's been visiting other schools, kind of trying to see where you think the best fit is for him. I heard
Who else
Missouri was on the list.
Where else did he go besides UNC?
UNC. ECU was up in the air. Arkansas, I know, got some names. Don't even try to mention Kelly Bryant's name around Jay, though. He wants to move on completely from this guy.
I'm ready to move on.
But it poses a legitimate argument. He's really seemed to be interested in UNC. I think this past weekend with that close game against Virginia Tech does nothing to hurt his chances of going there. Where do you think he was going to go? I think Arkansas was the favorite early on, but what are you thinking?
You know, I was thinking Arkansas at first, but I'm torn. I'm torn because I want to know if he's going to go play at a contender where he can try and win, or if he's just trying to get a bunch of playing time to show that he can actually play quarterback and get a second look from some NFL scouts.
All right, well, how about this? I'm going to put the three of y'all to the test real quick because I've got pulled up Odd Shark's updated odds as far as who's the odds-on favorite to land Kelly Bryant next year. This is as of October 10th, so last week before his visit to UNC over the weekend.
A betting line for everything.
They do. So I'm going to give each of the three of you a guess as to who you think is the odds-on favorite to land Kelly Bryant for next year, and I'll go ahead and wager that none of you get this right.
Okay. Jay, you go first.
You're going to make me go first?
Let's let our guest go first.
Okay, fine.
Too real, what's up?
James, you start us off.
You know, since you said it was a long shot, I'm going to go Missouri. They've got a few quarterbacks on that roster already, none of which have really played since they've got a proven guy in Drew Lock. But one of them I'm pretty sure could transfer, so we'll see about that one.
Jay?
Oh, God,
I got a good answer for the ending, so I want to save it.
So, still thinking ECU because I know that Bryant's heaviest recruiter out of high school was at ECU, and even though he is the hottest free agent right now in the country, he could still go to a smaller program and not play Power 5 D1.
So we got Missouri, ECU, Bad Brad, your guess?
What about Clemson?
What about? Oh my! Mute his mic.
You said it would be unexpected.
All right, so
I'm about a comeback.
So we're gonna go around one more time. I'll give you a hint. There's a list of 6 teams. There's 3 Big Ten teams and 3 ACC teams.
Ooh, okay.
I'm not gonna tell you which team is which ranking. So we'll go around one more time. You pick a Big Ten or ACC team. If you you can stick with it if you started off with one. But we'll go back to 2 real.
All right. Wow. If I'm choosing,
puts you on the spot.
Team, yeah, I know, for real. If I'm choosing an ACC team, I'm, and it's a surprise. Maybe Duke.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, they got Daniel Jones leaving next year, so that's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Realistically, if I had to pick a team,
hey, you didn't let him pick his Big Ten team.
What? Oh, are we picking?
No, I was only giving you one more guess. Either Big Ten or ACC.
I think Kelly stays in this area of the country. I think he goes ACC. I think UNC is the most logical choice.
And I'll complete the research triangle. I'll go NC State. I think with Finley leaving next year, this year, I'll take the Wolfpack.
All right, we're going to go 0 for 6 here because according to OddsShark, at plus 200, Penn State is the favorite to land Kelly Bryant right now. Finish out the rest of the list. Plus 300, Florida State and NC State are tied. Plus 400, Virginia Tech and Michigan. plus 500 Michigan State, and then the field, meaning any other team besides those 6, negative 200. So really,
I guess that answers your question, James. Do you think he wants to go to a place that's a contender that he can play at, or just somewhere where he can pad his stats and look good on the film? Sounds like they're thinking he's going to go to a contender.
Yeah, it's looking like it. I mean, Trace McSorley's gone after this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, he is.
mean,
and Shea Patterson
would be a good.
And Shea Patterson's probably going to leave Michigan, so that could be one too.
It also says here in this article that he does plan on making an official visit to Arkansas. Think Chad Morris. And Arkansas just landed the nation's #1 tight end for next year, so you already got a big target to lure Kelly in. So you might see Kelly Razorback Bryant next year.
If Kelly is going to base his college choice on what a tight end is going to be at his school,
That's what the article said.
Well, hey, James, we appreciate you taking the time to call in tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
Now, he also was going to bring up, and we talked about this earlier, I don't think he got to it, but about Texas. And he thought, the Texas lost to Maryland and beating kind of a, overrated Oklahoma team. Didn't really quite justify them being in the top 10. I'd probably side with him on that, but the voters love to see Texas on the top. And I was thinking about this earlier this past weekend. Woke up Saturday morning, getting ready for football and all, and I was thinking, what if the playoff comes out to be Alabama, Michigan, Texas, and Notre Dame? College football would explode.
The stuff nightmares are made of.
Think of the coaches you're going to have involved in that. You got Nick Saban potentially playing Jim Harbaugh, and then on the other side, you'd have Brian Kelly, and who was the other
Tom
team?
Herman.
Tom Herman, exactly. So that'd be a field of personalities there leading into the new year.
You could end college football there, and I think most fans would probably be satisfied with what they saw.
No, you'd have even more fans crying that it should be an 8-team playoff.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. We may get to the point pretty soon, next few years, where we at least get a 16 playoff. But we got a few minutes left in the show. Let's
talk about NC State.
Let's talk Clemson, NC State. Clemson now coming off their bye week. Probably at a good time for them. And, this past game for them was obviously Wake Forest, one where they probably played their most complete game of the season. Mm-hmm. Bradley, you seem to think that they're going to get them by more than 2 possessions, because the line right now is at, I think, 17.
17 seems a little high. I'm going to put it around 13. Like I said, I think a touchdown and a field goal is where we're looking at right now.
That would be 10, though, not 13.
Or, okay, touchdown and 2 field goals.
Not so fast.
It's been a long day.
Senior year, we're still trying to graduate.
Like I said, I haven't even left the room all day, so I've just been kind of lazily moping around. I think 13's a pretty good number to put it at right now. I do think, though, you got to watch out for NC State, despite the fact they haven't played anyone. Ryan Finley, one of the top quarterbacks we'll face all year. Yeah. I saw a poll earlier this week that said, what's the one thing Clemson needs to really worry about or focus on the most? It's Finley in that passing attack. I think with the secondary being a little suspect we've seen this year, if Clemson gets behind early, Finley...
the guy has thrown for 1,600 yards.
Finley has the experience. He's played against Clemson for 2 years now. This is his third. He's got the wide receivers to do it. Watch out. I think this is going to be a game. It's going to be a shootout.
I think the only way that this game is close or NC State gets the upset is if they really restrict Clemson's ability to run the ball, which I don't think is going to happen. Realistically, I just don't think NC State can handle
right now
Clemson's running attack.
13th in rush defense. Now, I know, like we said, they haven't played anyone, but we saw with that D-line that left last year, they've rebuilt it. They got some dudes down there on the line that can really stuff it up front. So it's not going to be easy. I think rushing attack.
Travis Etienne, though, is the best running back they'll face all year.
Oh, absolutely. The rushing attack is going to have to be as good as it's been all year for us. Hopefully, we can continue the momentum we've built from that Wake Forest game.
Got to give Trevor protection.
And throw some bubble screens, too. I know you don't like it, but throw those bubble screens, man. They open up the field.
We played well against Wake Forest, for most of the game. Obviously, the opening 3 possessions were abysmal with 18 total yards. But I still think that we played our most complete game of the season. I still think that Clemson can play a better game than they did against Wake Forest. But I don't know. I think it'll be a good game. It should be a competitive game. But I don't think that NC State gets an upset here.